What's up, brother? What you doing?
Holy fuck, the shaman. Not much, man. I'm in my basement,
Hell yeah,
keeping to myself.
I'm in my basement too, doing the same exact thing. That's what's up.
How you been?
Pretty good, man. Not
been
bad.
all right?
Yeah, not bad. I'm on break for school, so that's been good. I just submitted a paper earlier. It was nearly rejected, but the professor allowed it to pass, which was funny for me. But,
You squeaked through.
What's up? Yeah,
That's all you need. That's all you need is a pass, right?
Well,
so you're working toward what's sort of the professional designation to allow you to psychotherapy people.
Technically, I'd be a licensed clinical social worker after 2 years of supervised practice. So I handed in a paper. Again, I considered it a masterpiece. She considered it barely passing. So it was like, all right, we'll agree to disagree on that one. But yeah, she didn't like the content. But either way, I'm kind of, I'm that whole process, that whole part of it. So like social work is like, I guess it would be like kind of psychodynamic. Typically it's like psychodynamic therapy, but with a strong bent towards like kind of like sociological kind of macro concepts, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I get you. But do you have to put in the hours? Like, do you need an X number of clinical hours before you have your ticket type of thing?
Yep. I would need to do 2 years where I'd be like, I'd have to pay a licensed social worker to supervise my cases. And after 2 years, I could potentially get a license, although it's been brought up to me that I might not get approved because of my malicious online presence. So we'll see what happens.
Fuck that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly,
that's terrifying.
Well, no, not really, because they well, yeah, I guess it is, but they told me that they told the class that you can just anyone can call themselves a psychotherapist. So it's like
right.
I just wouldn't be able to panel for insurance, which would suck.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's right. Like in the meantime, you can call yourself, a wellness coach or a shaman or a mystic or whatever. But there is a liability, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's true. That is true. But that's the thing that kind of sucks. So we'll see. Like I said, I'm going to sit down for the licenses and all that stuff, because I just like, I mean, the code of ethics is I had to write a report on the code of ethics, like, which is hilarious. It's like fucking like I'm in 6th grade. But I had to do a report on the code of ethics in order to stay in school. So they're just like it's like the most flimsiest, like weirdest subjective stuff you can think of. And then they're like, at the end of it, it comes down to like, and these matters will be decided by, the bodies who are in charge. And it's just like, it's just crazy. The ethical considerations are just like, it's like, be good. And it's like, okay, like, very good. Am I good or not?
Well, that's pretty fucked, man. So you've been doxxed.
Kind of.
I think,
yeah.
Listen,
Actually, yeah, I have.
I don't know the details. Short of like some CNN articles, and I'm not especially interested in getting into it.
Sure.
And in no way do I sort of condone that type of stuff. Listen, I listen to Chapo. Okay, I'm very progressive.
Yeah.
No, I don't know what went on there. But, the reason why I'm interested in sort of what you're doing is that, from my perspective, we have a huge need for psychotherapy, and people sort of mainstream medicine, I think, is sort of woefully incompetent in terms of addressing those needs. I mean, most reason I've been feeling like a poser.
Why?
So here's my situation. I inherited a practice where, without, and of course I would never discuss patient identifiers or patient specifics, but where, there's demographics. Let's say, you're postmenopausal woman who is struggling with her sexual identity, and is depressed, and here you are as let's say a 30-something, or trying to talk them through their problem. You don't have the life experience, you don't have the training, and you don't have the willpower. You don't. like trying to, even bring myself to understanding this woman's issue in 15 minutes, which is sort of the constraints that we have, is totally unrealistic. So that's where the therapists come in. So I've been shopping around in my small city, we'll call it, and there is no government covered options for these people. Mm-hmm. And the folks with any professional designation are running, $100 an hour. So it's prohibitive for especially people that are personality disordered and therefore can't even get along in the workplace, right? They're sort of by definition non-functioning, and are a huge burden on the taxpayer in terms of all the social welfare that they need to sort of exist. So anyway, I don't know what the solution is, man.
Well, so when you say, just to clarify, when you say personality disorder, are you talking like borderline personality or like character disorder? Like what I know what you're talking about. I just want to make sure it's clear for people who are listening.
Yeah, I think that by far and away the most challenging patients are the borderlines and the narcissistic personality disorder, and then maybe to a lesser degree dependent. But I think it's fair to say, I don't know what your experience has been, that the people that we sort of highlight are the borderlines. Sure. Because they have, they tend to have tumultuous relationships with any of their care providers or the people that sort of support them in the social welfare sort of system, right? They're all about, and again, I'm sorry for making these types of generalizations, but sort of by definition are about externalizing responsibility. They have no sense of, personal locus of control. So they're looking for someone to blame. And those relationships become super hard to navigate because they're like, hey, you said that this fucking SSRI was going to make me feel better. And I still feel like shit. I'm still slitting my wrists. I'm still showing up to the emergency department every other week. What are you doing wrong? Why aren't you, as my doctor, taking care of me?
Okay, yeah, no, that makes. Have you ever read the Road Less Traveled?
No, I haven't.
Pretty good. It's an old book. There's I think it was written in the 70s by a psychiatrist, and he talks about like the different like people who have who are character disordered, quote unquote, versus like neurotics, and neurotics tend to take excessive responsibility, where people who have character disorders or typically personality disorders tend to take zero responsibility for what they're doing. Like it's kind of like he was saying the same thing. Like people with character disorders are like the hardest people to work with because unless they enter in, they grant themselves some sort of locus or control or responsibility over their own lives. It's basically pointless on some level. I mean, it's not pointless because you should always try, but it can be futile in those cases.
And that's how it feels, man.
Especially in 15 minutes. Yeah, especially in 15 minutes. Yeah. It's like, well,
you're listening to them sort of kvetch and complain, and I don't have the training to offer therapy. I mean, you guys are in school for 2 years anyway, and then doing whatever your fucking 10,000 hours of supervised training on these issues specifically, right? Mm-hmm. I don't have a clue. That's why I feel like a fraud. I feel like a poser.
Well, here's the thing. So this is like I work with children, like like high schoolers pretty much, and some middle schoolers. But the thing that exactly, I've been thinking exactly what you're saying has been something I've been thinking about, because like there was a kid I was working with who was let's say, I'll try to mix up say he was afraid of trees, right? Or no, it wasn't trees. Say he was afraid of like looking at it wasn't a school. I'm trying to get, I guess I can say it. Say he's afraid of hospitals, right? Every time, due to a traumatic experience in his life, he's afraid of hospitals. Every time he passes one, he sees a hospital, he gets what is basically like an anxiety response and just can't look at it. So I'm working with him, kind of exposing him to the idea of like making himself look and like counting down the seconds and stopping when it's too uncomfortable. So I'm doing all this work with him, using all of the exposure therapy and all this fancy shit. And then he comes in like 2 days next week comes in, he goes, oh yeah, I'm fine. I can look at hospitals now. And it's like, well, like how? I'm like, hell yeah, I'm the best. I'm like, well, what happened? He was like, well, I tried the week before. I couldn't do it. And then the next week I was doing it. My friend asked me, he was like, hey, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, and he explained, like, I'm scared of hospitals. This is why I'm scared of hospitals. And I've been told I like try to look at them as long as I can. And his friend was like, oh, I'll do it with you. And this kid, he's like, after that, my friend was doing it with me. It was totally fine. So it's like no therapist can reproduce that. That's something irreproducible in therapy that people just like don't think about. And how is that so strong to have a friend do something with you? And you have to pay a guy $175 to listen to you. I'm just, like I said, I'm kind of like, I'm at the point where I just want to work on developing peer counseling networks, because it's like, I just don't buy that. Like, I think it's more of a personality type than like a trained thing. I mean, I guess over hours and hours of experience, you do get proficient in like how to help people. But like, I don't know, man. I think there's a lot of people who could probably sit there for 20 years getting $175 an hour, not really producing any sort of tangible benefit, or very minimal, I should say.
No, and I hear that, and I guess there is probably an evidence base around, for example, like peer support. Sure. So in that case, you saw that you sort of saw that practically applied. And I mean, it's certainly true that like DBT or dialectical based therapy, as far as borderline personality, I think has the most evidence. But, can anyone really define that therapy or those groups of therapies? So, I sat in on a personality disorder service because I'm trying to better understand these people and sort of my vain attempts to help them. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing how in this group setting, they've sort of developed this culture of victimization. And they're all very fluent with sort of the lexicon of the therapy. So they talk about things like action urges and things that you'll be familiar with. But yeah, I question at sort of the end of the sessions, it's like, okay, well, what did we accomplish here today? And how is this going to change, this individual's sort of patient's outcome? But certainly that's like you spoke about making peer or facilitating peer support networks. At least that's sort of scalable. Yeah. As opposed to sort of one-on-one, you get some guy laying down on a fucking couch and you smoke your pipe and analyze his dreams. Like that's, sure, for the select few that will have the insurance or have access to that level of therapy, that's one thing, but certainly not the majority of people.
Yeah, the majority, especially the people who are mandated therapy, where they don't get to choose who they go to. They just have to show up and like they're just matched with some random person who they probably or might not like very much. So it's like, yeah, in that case, it can kind of be a disaster.
Yeah, they're being forced into it. Yeah, to keep to keep their job or whatever it may be. But I don't know. I don't think that's to say that as a field, I don't think that there's a lot that there's value in sort of formal training. One of the things, for example, I was surprised to learn about was sort of the impact of early childhood experience, and even the value of sort of exploring early childhood trauma as sort of a pathological, genesis for personality disorders. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't something that I really, I saw sort of the whole like Freudian, like I still don't buy the fact that I want to fuck my mother. I'm sorry. Yeah. But like, it's certainly true that, across the board, these people had less than supportive parents, if not, frankly, abusive parents. And, there's a theme where they describe really like shallow relationships with their parents. So, people didn't take care of them. And now that's sort of what they seek all the time. That is someone to take care of them. And of course, I'm talking about borderline personality disorder at this point. So yeah. I think it's pretty fascinating.
So have you done like a lot of training in like trauma theory and like toxic stress and all that stuff?
No, zero, dude.
Really?
0.
'Cause that's all I've done. That's the one thing I'll give my school. It's like they hammer that into your head, which is like, to me, that's the thing that makes the most sense, being that like you can measure it on brain scans, you can measure the changes in the brain, you can
right.
The whole idea of like when you grow up in an environment where, you know, you're either being abused or like other people are being abused, like your amygdala grows, and like when your amygdala and all those fear stress responses are fired up, you can't use your prefrontal cortex. You typically can't use your prefrontal cortex while your amygdala is firing. So if your amygdala is always kind of like on,
they're kind of mutually inhibitory.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So that's the thing that makes the most sense to me. And that's the thing, honestly, that is the best scientific backing for Freudian concepts of like early childhood. Because he, you know, back then, like you just would compare things to what you knew about, and like myths were like their TV shows back then. So it was like, of course he's going to be, you know, or I guess if you were like, you know, super wealthy and super educated, myths were your TV show. But it's still like that was their comparison. So there's a lot of like weird shit that comes along with that. But the trauma theory to me is like almost scientific proof of, well, not even just proof as in like flat out, but like kind of lends itself to agree with a lot of those Freudian early childhood like psychoanalytic concepts.
Right. And they're borrowing from even more ancient concepts like Oedipus and yeah, I mean, there's obviously a wisdom there. But yeah,
but I hear what you're saying.
That I was skeptical about that sort of aspect, but that's been sort of a good learning experience. And I hear you. Like, of course, you need to be have like an empathetic disposition in order to be in the business at all, and that may be more valuable than the formal knowledge and training. But the quandary that we're in, and it probably is the case in the States too, and certainly as you guys go towards single payer, is that you have this artificial hierarchy where you have your doc, it might be your internal medicine attending, who is writing the sick notes, who is writing the prescriptions, but who has very little formal training unless they seek it out, and doesn't have the capacity in terms of time or the resources to really do sort of like an in-depth diagnosis in terms of all these mental health issues. And psychiatrists are no help. Sorry, not in my area anyway. They're so burdened that they're there to discuss fourth line medications and resistant schizophrenia. They're not there to explore how daddy issues are causing this woman not to stay in the workplace.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely, absolutely. And that's now, like I said, I didn't want to I kind of can have like extreme language, and I didn't want to like say like, oh, you don't need any. I think training's good. It's just like, when you medicalize life problems, like you just mentioned, like you have daddy issues, but that can only be interpreted through like a medical, like the medical gaze, or I forget who said that. Like I forget which. There was some theorist who talks about that. So it's like if you have daddy issues, it's not really a medical problem, but seems like it can only be dealt with if it's tagged with the appropriate like disorder, quote unquote, and then insurance will kick in, when in reality this person might just need like someone to model positive relationships to them and do all this other stuff that just takes a long time, that is like outside of like, when I say training, I mean like, and this is what bothers me, I've seen sometimes in my schooling where people are just excited to like pin the tail on the donkey and be like, boom, ODD, boom, this and that. And it's like, yeah, that's cool and all. You read through the book and like match symptoms up, even though like most of the symptoms are the fucking same for like half of them. But it's just like, right. I'm more into, what I want to get into is more like holistic therapy. Like I said, like plant medicine, exercise, sleep, diet, like all those other things. So when I deal with people and they're like, oh, I've only slept like 3 hours a night for the last week, it's like, well, that
might be a problem.
You're seriously upset. I can see why you're upset, but like if you were to sleep 8 hours, there's at least I'm inclined to believe that a good amount of your stress would kind of go away, or at least be mitigated. So it's like, I don't understand. I mean, I understand why, because like you're just saying, it's all kind of filtered through this like medical hierarchy. But yeah, that's kind of what I want to get into, is like, having more holistic approaches, more affordable approaches, and a more like kind of like a more centered communal experience for mental health for people, one that's actually good and measurable, that doesn't fall prey to all like the bullshit stuff.
Absolutely, man. And it's funny because, for many, what I would call medical illnesses, I push back against alternative medicine, putting crystals in your vagina to clear your Crohn's disease or whatever. But I think it's certainly true that for psychiatric or mental health issues that are so complex and that are so that are modified by environment, that the holistic approach is what's needed. So in your work with kiddos especially, and you mentioned sort of the label of oppositional defiant disorder and all the ODD and all the stigma that's attached to that. Do you ever get the impression that parents are trying to medicalize their shitty parenting skills?
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of the parents I've dealt with have been like responsive, so like I'll talk to them a little bit, but my like my interaction with the parents is like really limited. Usually if I feel like it's like the work I'm doing is totally blocked at home, I'll call the parents to come in. But yeah, dude, there's a ton of literature about like overdiagnosis of ADHD, overdiagnosis of whatever, like ODD and these other things are typically misinterpreted trauma responses. So like if a kid's constantly hypervigilant, looking around the room, not paying attention in school, it might not be ADHD as much as it is the fact that he's constantly aroused and looking for danger because his parents are beating the fuck out of him or passing out drunk, or, his mom's a prostitute and there's always weird people inside. So like sometimes things that are perceived as ADHD and the kid just gets thrown on pills is the fact that he's living in a situation that's like completely fucked up. So yeah, they get tranquilizers.
Behavior at home.
Exactly, and then like you were saying, it's like it's not even like it could be from the parents, but it's also like the doctor looks at him and goes, oh yeah, ADHD. They look in a book, they look in the DSM and go, oh well, this is ADHD clearly, without asking like, well, what the fuck are you doing? What's going on in your house? They just match symptoms and they go medicine. Because I work with kids in the inner city, and like they're some of the most medicated kids like in America at all, or in America, like they just get pills thrown at them nonstop.
Of course. And the profit motive is there. I mean, that sort of old hat stuff, but there's money to be made by selling stimulants. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's tricky, and so you're starting to envision some solutions, especially as relates to sort of peer support networks. Some things that I think are exciting. Well, no, I shouldn't say exciting, but some things that I think are practical to get involved in, and I'm thinking about it even on a voluntary basis, are like community sports teams.
Yep.
I mean, these are simple, and they're not especially exciting. These are simple solutions. But, from a cost effectiveness perspective, that might be more useful than sitting down with your newly graduated, doctor that has 15 minutes and a prescription pad.
Yeah.
In terms of solving these problems.
Well, it's also like you can use, and I use like with the little, especially like the boy. Actually, at the middle school, I only work with boys, but it's like I'll do a thing where they have like a little like arcade basketball hoop. And I'll teach them mindfulness like techniques, but while shooting basketball. So I'm like, all right, take a deep breath. And I'm like, detach yourself from whether or not it goes in or out and just let the ball leave your hand. And it's like, this is easy to do. And you could have entire sports teams based around kind of mindfulness practices instead of like some like 45-year-old dude who for some reason needs like an 8-year-old kid's team to win to feel good about themselves. So it's like, it would be nice to kind of, it would be nice to kind of like, and then he's just re-traumatizing kids, being like, you gotta win, and they're just like, oh fuck. So yeah, it would be. I mean, what you're talking about would be cool to have like and people would, I guarantee, be like, oh my god, shut the fuck up. But like adding therapeutic elements to sports and making it, I don't know, like reconceptualizing some. I just think that like, especially for little kids, it's like, well, what are they inherently interested in that you could kind of like mold in the way that it's not forcing them to do stuff. And honestly, too, a lot of the stuff that when I keep talking about, like, communal thing, it's just church. Like we're missing church is, it's gone awry. We need to reconceptualize church. and then be able to like linchpin just communities, families, all this stuff around a concept. And it's like, it doesn't have to be, you know, like altar boys and weird Latin languages. It can like, I like the ancient, like the Greek thing of
I pray at the altar of Matt and Shane. It's hilarious, dude. You've seen it. You've been on the Reddit. Let's be honest for a second. It's so you've already started to you know, institute these community solutions, and there's nothing there's nothing wrong with, you know, a group of sort of like-minded guys getting on the Reddit and sharing ideas, and it's taken sort of more full form as far as I can see through Cumtown.
Mm-hmm.
So you like, man, like they're on now. The problem is their sort of ethos is a little bit different, because there's so much sort of irony poisoning. So I don't think that there's the same sort of sense of community, but it's certainly true that beyond. So you're familiar with Discord? I assume. Yeah. So you have people with complex relationships. Okay, this is the e-culture. You know, sort of boyfriend girlfriend type of people that are signing on the Cumtown Discord or on the Matt and Shane Discord, and learning how to interact. And here's the reality. And, you know, I'm sorry for the listeners, but these might be basement dwellers, a lot of them, right? Mm-hmm. These might be people that are playing too many video games.
Okay.
And maybe are a little bit personality disordered. But it's a way for people to, you know, learn how to interact with each other a little bit better. In the case of, maybe I'm speculating, in the case of some of the Cumtown Discord folk. And then, like you're pointing, and then maybe with a little more sort of fully formed communities where there's a little bit more of an ethic. On Reddit, for example, you know, you're already establishing these peer support networks, and giving people purpose and giving people a sense of community and meaning. No, so I think that's huge.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and it is. And again, it's not a slight to be like, you know, there are a contingent of any online community that pretty much are, I would say, people who might be not like agoraphobic, but might just kind of be in this little box and cube and kind of unsure of how to proceed in the world. You know, which a lot of that goes back to your, like, what were your parents like? What did they teach you? What do they teach you the world was like through their behavior? Because as a 6-year-old kid, if your parents say they don't like you, that's the world saying the world does not like you. And then you carry that on throughout your life. But yeah, no, I think you're right. I think there is a huge opportunity for people to kind of try to not redefine themselves, but like filter themselves through these different online communities and kind of like, you know, challenge and poke themselves, or even just find solace. Like you're reading all this stuff, and there's a large faction of the world who are viewing the world in a way that you don't particularly like. And then you can kind of retreat back to like a little comfort. I know they'll be like, shut up, it's not a comfort zone. Fuck you, dude. You're fucking gay. But it's like, it's a comfort zone on some respect. You come back, dude, and you're like,
but that's comforting.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it's kind of embryonic in some sense to fall back into a bunch of people who most likely agree with you, even though they fight a lot. Yeah. There's so much infighting on the subreddit. It's hilarious.
But there's something therapeutic about being razzed. You know, like I don't know.
True.
Man. Like I think there's a lot of kind of healthy shit talk.
True. No, absolutely, man. I mean, I'm sure you've met people who can't take like a joke at all, and it's like they don't fare well in social situations.
Yeah, but no, man, we're all praying at the altar of Matt and Shane. So here's the thing: like I grew up without any real religion outside of being like a choir boy.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are, kind of holiday season now, and that's been difficult. Like I think I had the Western moral ethics just drilled into me by watching TV and stuff like that, but certainly I never had a faith, and that's definitely been difficult for me, I think that my family was sort of, reactionary atheists and sort of extreme from that perspective. And it was weird growing up. Like, so I've heard your little twills or in trills. Were you in the choir as well?
No, I was an altar boy, but you were an altar boy. Yeah, I grew up on it. Well, I was in the choir for I quit because I didn't want to do a solo, even though I highly regret. It's like the most regrettable mistake in my childhood because I'm not a bad singer, so I could have wowed my class with my pipes, and I just bitched out in fucking 7th grade. And
you heard it.
Fuck, man, I still sweat. I'm like, what a bitch I was in 7th grade. But yeah, I had the opposite experience. I was like, if I masturbate, I'm going to hell. I had like a taste of like the Old Testament God for the first like 7 years of my life, and then it was just kind of like, yeah. But yeah. So you were the opposite. You grew up with like serious atheists. What is that like? Because that's like foreign to me.
Well, it was fucked, and it was fucked being part of the choir, for example, where we're singing, fall on your knees, praise be to God, the King has come type of thing. And I'm trying to reconcile that and scenes of Bethlehem with palm trees and baby Jesus with Santa. Santa was the pantheon of gods that I was comfortable with. And I thought that was from like Coca-Cola or something like that. I had no fucking idea what these guys were going on about.
Why were you in the choir? Why were you in the choir?
Because I had a beautiful singing voice.
Hell yeah, dude. That's what's up.
Yeah, until my voice cracked. I swear they would have castrated me if I had kept going. I know it was gorgeous.
Damn.
Yeah, but I couldn't. And the thing is that we brought I remember sort of a snide, sort of smug attitude of like, oh, these people are sort of delusional, but you couldn't but help get caught up in the spirit of it, right? Mm-hmm. And singing together and sort of the glory of it and the wonder of it. And I mean, obviously, I have to give my folks credit. That's part of why they had me involved. But yeah, so now we don't have that. I mean, is it still politically accessible to sing Christmas carols, or is that? I don't think that's PC anymore.
Well,
right?
there's a couple like "Baby It's Cold Outside" is slightly off limits. Even though I don't think you would like. Banned. Yeah, I also don't think you would go to somebody's house and like try to entice them with that one. Like if you started singing "Baby It's Cold Outside" at someone's neighbor's door, that'd be kind of funny. But no, I think like I don't know. I think people would people started walking around Christmas caroling and all that stuff. I think most people would be kind of like, oh, that's nice. I mean, I did in class. We did a musical, so we had a music therapist come and like they like came into the class and without even speaking started singing as like a little like like ma 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 and like introducing themselves like my name is blah blah what and all that stuff. And it was funny because the class froze and then like she got us all to introduce ourselves. We had to sing our names and then keep patting the rhythm on the desk while we did it. It instantly centers an entire group. It was my attention drifts very like hard. And I was like zeroed in after we did that little like quick little singing and like desk drumming exercise. My attention was seized for 45 minutes. Like I was like rapturously listening to this lady and just taking in all of her words, just like, oh,
yeah.
And it's
works better than Adderall.
Dude, it's crazy. It's crazy how simple that is and how well that like zapped me in because I don't think I have ADHD, but I'd be willing to bet that if a doctor assessed me, I have forms of ADD or whatever. I definitely would come up positive for that. But it's like, dude, I did that with that lady and I was zeroed in, being like, wow.
Your blood. I'm sorry, sir. Your blood test has come back and you have ADHD. Yeah, but exactly. Yeah, I think we all come back positive for some aspects of that diagnosis. But yeah, so you found that it was a way, especially in a group setting, to get everyone sort of on the same wavelength and everyone vibing.
Yeah, for me at least, there's everyone bitched out. No one would sing along with the song, which kind of bothered me because it's like, seriously, you guys, everyone just bemoans like Western civilization so rigid, and it's like, all right, here we go, we're all gonna sing together. You don't want to do this now? It's like, god damn it, that kind of bothered me. But but yeah, there is something like profound of the simplicity of sitting in a group of people, and as it's been kind of like made to be kind of silly, like to have a drum circle. But like, dude, if you got me 6 people and some drums, I would sit there for 4 hours and drum and fucking sing. I would love to do that. And it's so easy to do.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure if you were to hook people up to biomarkers before and afterwards, our blood pressure would drop and our, whatever else, our cortisol would drop. It's like a simple thing people can do together that we're for some reason kind of like super hesitant about.
For sure. Well, and I mean, those institutions are falling apart, right? I mean, church attendance is way down. Not that I'm like, fuck, man, and don't get me wrong. Like, I don't have the first clue, and for all I know, it's probably boring as fuck to sit through a sermon. And
so boring.
But there's something missing. I mean, there's always going to be sort of societal pathology, but as we become more digital and more isolated, it's becoming more difficult to get together and to teach each other and to support each other as peers. And maybe that's why we're moving toward these online solutions. I mean, Facebook's worked well. Speaking of Facebook, one of the recommendations, so new dad, how far along is your baby? When do you anticipate?
She'll be here March 1st, according to the estimates. So you're a new dad, you said?
Yeah.
Congrats, man.
Newish.
Congrats.
Yeah, I'm not going to dox myself specifically, but
congrats.
I found that, so it's difficult, especially the first 4 months. I mean, it's hilarious to complain as a dad, but the first 4 months are I found especially difficult, and so and no one has kids anymore. Everyone delays their kids until they're like 50 years old or 45 years old. So no one in my peer group had kids. So I went online, man. I had to go online.
That makes sense.
And I found huge community support for the first time. I didn't anticipate this on Facebook, and so there's groups for new dads, and there's a hive mind that you can consult with practical questions with with someone to sort of support you, and that was hugely useful.
Yeah, that is cool. Then that's the thing about online that's like you really can't like speak badly of is that hive mind aspect where it's like I can put out a question and like maybe 2,500 people within the span of a half an hour will formulate a piece of the response that I need. It's like you can't touch that in terms of like getting that elsewhere.
Yeah, dude. They can't hug you, but short of that, it's a pretty supportive environment. So how are you going to raise your kid? How are you going to mold them in terms of their are you going to circumcise? Or no, it's a little girl, isn't it?
It's a little girl, thank God, because that's a big beef. Yeah. That's a big beef between me and my wife right now. I'm saying no circumcision. I'm saying it's unnecessary. Let it. He can decide later. It's his. I was just reading an article about like there's an article in the Atlantic like what boys need to learn. What boys need to learn about being a man, and it was like little boys for some reason report like wanting to be like tall and strong and rich, and like we don't know where that's come from, and it's like.
Yeah, God forbid they would want that.
Yeah, and it's like really like you don't know where that's come from. It's like okay, it's like in every dating profile, it's like must be this tall, and like if you guys are like, oh, he's rich, it's like that's the one that whatever. That's a whole different stuff. I'm not even gonna get sidetracked on that. But but with the whole like people finding seeking their level and everything, I'm like obsessed with this idea of building like some form of church, community center, whatever you want to call it, that has like some form of program where it would be like, you'd have like affordable daycare in there because it would be, it would all be kind of peer controlled with like other people you kind of interact with. So it'd be like somewhere where people could exercise, somewhere people could do like kind of like therapy, community therapy, group therapy, like physical exercise, like just a gigantic community center that would be accessible and used by a bunch of people in a way that like I think people could benefit from, since like you were like the churches are just like you sit there, you're bored for an hour and a half, you throw them $5 and you're like, sweet, I'm not going to hell. It's like I just don't think that that's kind of falling apart.
Right. Yeah, and I think in smaller communities you get that. a little bit more, like in terms of community centers and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you know all about this. You've mentioned tribes before on the podcast, but in terms of how we're sort of evolved for a social network of 400 people or something like that. But I think in bigger city centers, it's harder, even from a practical perspective, in terms of creating a community center with that sort of feel outside of going to a country club or buying into something that's sort of restricted to the public.
So what do you this is what I'm thinking of because again, if I opened a big thing in the middle of in Philadelphia and was like community center, it would just like it would turn into so many different things. But I'm thinking of creating physical extensions of online communities. So it's like, this is kind of a word of mouth. It's not like word of mouth, like other people will be able to go, but it's like, I'm going to build this physical space and tell people online.
For
like,
IRL.
This is what I want to do. I want to have it's almost going to be like ancient Greece where it's like you could go there, you could wrestle people, you could sit there and fucking debate and dialogue people. And you can, if you want to go into like a trance state, there would be a room where you can, people could block off times to like do that, whether in groups or by themselves or guided. And I'm obsessed with building this space. And I'm like, that's currently like what I want when I get out of school. I want to rent like warehouse space and just fill it with like wrestling mats, fitness equipment, and then like just like areas people could get together and talk and just do other stuff. I can't shake this idea, which sounds like a cult.
Oh, that's amazing! I love it. No, it is a cult. That's okay, as long as you're not fucking everyone.
That's what I said. That's what I said.
Yeah.
As long as I don't fuck everyone or convince us all to kill ourselves, we're fine.
Yeah. As long as there's no Kool-Aid. No, I love that. I love that idea. And and like as long as you can monetize it, I don't know if it's going to be with like a membership or something like that. So I've been thinking about getting back into BJJ.
Nice. That's a good move.
As much as from a need for belonging and community as my interest in training the martial art. But man, like throwing down some mats, having people unplug. I think that would be fantastic. And I guess you have a big enough fan base in Philly where it'd be practical too.
Yeah, it would be like a reinvented Elks Lodge. You know what I mean? Because it's like if you think about even like biker bars, it's like if you think about it, it's probably a bunch of people who are kind of traumatized through their childhood who like became bikers, but in reality they're just trying to like go to the biker bar and hang out with other people. So they're like, I'm in a biker gang, but either way. Sorry, that's probably a bad analogy. But even like, actually, that's a sick analogy, dude. We're all fucking bikers, but
we're fucking
yeah, but like even to think about that, to like open up like chapters of like to extend podcasts, because there is a weird like people are recognizing like this podcast thing is weird, and there is like a communal aspect no one really wants to confront, even though like it does seem to be the case. So like I'm thinking like why not just fucking rip the ripcord and just like I just want to build a warehouse, advertise through the podcast like this is what this is the center I envision to like externalize and materialize the essence of the podcast. And this is what I'd love to have a center for people to be able to do. And then if you want to open one in another city, just fucking do it. It's not like I'd be like, well, I need X. It's like, just open these things. Yeah. I just want this place to exist.
You're not going to franchise it out.
No, I just want it to exist.
Because it's all cross promotion. Yeah, dude. Obviously Lewis is, with his Skankfest and stuff like that has created a bit of a brand. I mean, the analogy that I'm sort of hesitant to make is with the Proud Boys. These are, not someone that you want to be associated with, but like it or not, that obviously the development of that is
that's scary. But it could be mitigated through, and that that's on the responsibility. That's kind of what McGinnis was. That was the vibe he was putting out. So that it's almost is like you do get back what you put out. So it's like and you
sure.
don't want to. If that's what you're putting out, that's what you're attracting. So it's like I like people joking around, having fun about anything. But as soon as you're like marching and trying to like fight Antifa, it's like obviously that's where my buck stops. Where I'm like, all right, dude, I'm gonna go. I'm going to go run on a treadmill or fucking, I'm going to jerk off. I'd rather jerk off and fight Antifa. But it's like, I would love to.
And it's sort of the same thing.
Well, yeah, exactly. But it's also like, it's also like something that I feel like, especially in the States, it was like the culture wars were kind of a fucking jolt that like kind of unsettled almost everybody. For not everybody, but it unsettled a lot of people. So now it's going to be like people finding their way back to center and be like, all right, like I can chill. I don't have to read all this weird filtered news. I can chill I can chill out again and like kind of reintegrate myself. Not like I was reading that article on like about boys, and I was like, oh, this is written by a girl, and I instantly caught myself being like, who is she to tell boys how to be men? And I had to like stop and be like, dude, shut the fuck up and read it. And I read it, and it was like, oh, there's a bunch of shit I didn't know that was actually cool to learn. So it's like, that's a whole other random point. But yeah, I do agree with like, I feel like building, materializing these communities, I think would be a very viable option for mental health, and one in which people could really take their own mental health in their own hands and like, build meaningful communities around things that will enrich their life experiences and, blah, blah, blah. So it's like, I think that is a big missing component in terms of people's mental health piece. It's like working out. Like you can't expect to have a nice body if you don't work out, and like mentally, if you're not doing anything that kind of activates those circuits of feeling okay, like the calm peace cycle, whatever you want to call it, the antithesis of the fear cycle, it's like, then it's not going to happen for you. You're not going to feel good. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. The need is there. I mean, I think that's sort of half of what gyms are at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, it's certainly the case with yoga studios, and like, it's, people are going, going to their Sunday mass and doing, hot yoga and having a spiritual experience. I mean, what the fuck what happened to the Elks Lodge? What happened to, I don't really get that. I mean, I guess all that sense of like brotherhood or whatever has gone online, and in terms of in online communities, and obviously it's not natural or as healthy as being in a physical space.
No, so, and
I love it.
Yeah, it is awesome. And it's also, I think that I would say people of our generation and younger suffer from, and this is when we were talking about the ethos of certain podcasts. I like the dudes who do Come Town, but I feel like for a certain, they've put, and it's not just them, I think the reason they're so successful is they've tapped into this like need for people who are our age and younger to like interpret all of life events through like an ironic kind of like filter, if that makes sense. So like the idea of going to an Elks Lodge is already so kind of blah and like, oh my God, what are you, a fucking boomer? So like, which is, that's cool to like distance yourself from a lot of weird boomer tendencies, but it's like, you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
What they don't get though, if I can, presume to say as much, is that those were started with a fucking tongue in cheek. Like that, it was supposed to be stupid. You know what I mean?
That's hilarious.
Like the idea of like, putting fucking antlers on your head or like whatever, like that's the whole point. Like it started as a sort of semi joke or a little bit of like with a little bit of a satirical feel. But that's not to say that there can be a genuine like component, right? And it's the fear of having any sort of being earnest.
Yes.
Like you can't mix the two, right? And I think it is totally fair to say that that's sort of part of what your podcast has gotten at. And I was also listening to Dad Meat.
Dude, Dad Meat. I love Dad Meat. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, they're trying to. Well, but no, I'm not. I mean, you got it. Like that's what they're trying to get. Like there's nothing incompatible about earnesty and humor. You know what I mean? Like you can go in and out of the two. But yeah, like Calm Down is fucking hilarious, and Nick Mullen's obviously a genius. But I don't see them making any community centers anytime soon.
For sure.
That's not what he's aiming to do.
No, not at all. And I like I said, I think it's great to be able to listen to something that's 100% satirical. It's just like you're saying, when then the community forms around that. And then, dude, this is the paper I just submitted about how like we almost unconsciously build hierarchies around everything we're interested in. And that was my idea with like social work school, how it's like, yeah, like I get that, you know, and they're always pointing out all the flaws and everything, but I'm like, well, what are you guys doing? What are you guys building hierarchies around? And how are you guys conceptualizing like how you stand apart from others within this, you know, how does that look like? I mean, I'm not going to bore you with all that, but it's like, you know, it's interesting to recognize that where it's like, you know, where are we building?
It's not boring, man.
You know what I'm saying?
It's fucking brutal. Sitting on therapy sessions where they're asking their clients to divulge sort of their deepest, darkest thoughts, and then like feigning this persona where they're, you know, like unshakable and but, you know, underneath it all, underneath this thin veil of clinician is an emotionally disturbed person with as much mental illness as the people that they're counseling. I mean, oh God, it's fucking brutal to watch. That was one of my big takeaways.
That was it. That's exactly my problem, where it's like, dude, you got to be a little bit above this stuff, man. And it's like, if you're not, then like, I don't know, that's irresponsible for someone who's, again, like 62 years old, 64 years old, coming in, complaining about, you know, like wanting to open up, who doesn't know how, who's never had it modeled to them, and who's going to start the chat with like, you know, like about getting pussy. And it's like, you have to be able to give that person the benefit of the doubt and be like, you know, the unconditional positive regard to be like, this person's nervous about opening up. Let's work through this. And if, as a skilled clinician, I can spin getting pussy into like earlier, what about your early relationships like with girls? What was it like with your parents? Like, you can spin all that stuff rather than being like, I'm a feminist. It's like, it's not time for that right now. Put that shit on the fucking shelf. Oh man.
Absolutely.
You just push my button.
No, I hear that. And if you're bringing in your own political agenda, you are compromising the therapeutic relationship. And that's why, like, you know, not that I'm a big acolyte of Jordan Peterson or anything like that,
mm-hmm.
but I mean his success, and I think you know, the success of it's a basic formula, is that he entered a vacuum, like mm-hmm. as being a right-leaning, you know, a little bit chauvinistic, politically conservative psychologist. I mean, that's unheard of, right?
Yeah.
So people were sort of hungry for that perspective. Young men were hungry for that perspective. And then from a therapeutic, looking at it from a therapeutic lens, I mean, he's relatable to them. He is addressing issues, whether you agree with their issues or not, he's relatable to them. And that's why he's done so well for himself, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you were to measure his clinical impact with like questionnaires of everyone who's ever listened to him or listened to his material, yeah, it would be enormous in terms of like, you know, like wellness scores, all that stuff. But yeah, dude, you want to talk about an online community who literally personifies the leader of the community? Go to the Peterson subreddit. Yeah. They all talk like him. Holy fuck. They all are like, well, this is reprehensible. And it's like...
They all sound like Kermit.
Yeah. They literally type...
It's bloody awful.
They've adopted his speech patterns and typing, which is, you know... But again, like, what was there before? Was that a void? Like, you're like, what... Did they have any thoughts? That's the thing that frightens me the most, of thinking of people who... And again, I could be just saying this, but I feel like there's a lot of people who... at their core don't have any of their true own authentic, or have very few of their own authentic thoughts they've developed through their experience, rather than just like parroting. Like, when you start getting into like how much people just parrot what's around them without thinking about it, it's fucking terrifying.
Yeah. I mean, and that's sort of one of the DSM criteria of borderline personality disorder, right? They have no sort of sense of self.
Yeah, they feel empty.
And I think that's okay. I mean,
sure.
Fuck. Like, I identify as the media that I consume, and I change on a monthly basis according to what podcasts I'm listening to.
No.
I don't have a unifying identity per se. Maybe that's why I listen to Come Town. But you know what I mean? Like,
not just that. Like, you're able to say like again, the ability to, because dude, my opinion on things change literally day to day. So it's like, it's not that, you know, you're malleable that I'm talking about. It's more of like I've met people who I just don't think even try to stake their own claim in anything at all and just kind of sit and watch. Which again, like you're saying, I don't think this is a bad thing. It's just kind of, for me, it's just a little strange to watch people never truly throw their hat in the ring in any sort of meaningful way. And it's just kind of like, and I get it. There's huge social rewards not to do that. But yeah, I don't mean like malleable,
right.
You know, I'm being malleable and, you know, being like, well, yeah, I thought that's wrong. But being like, I don't know, maybe I'm not explaining it right.
No, I hear that. Like they're so passive that they can't actualize themselves because they're unwilling to sort of engage in anything that could be even like remotely, you know, misconstrued as like like an opinion that someone could object against. And like, yeah, I see that. And that's what, you know, people identify most with their, like with sports teams. I mean, that's like God and country for a lot of people is their local sports team, because at least, you know, that doesn't have any kind of connotation of nationalism or like, you know, an ethnicity or anything like that.
Sure.
I don't know. Is there anything wrong with that? I don't know.
No,
probably not. I
don't think so. I think it definitely also scratches those tribal itches in a way that's like, you can't, like you were saying, like you can't really come at it. You can just like fucking love the Vikings with all your heart and soul, and everyone's just like, hey, that's, I guess, a safe place to pour all of that, you know, like ancient tribalism into. But I also think from a productivity standpoint,
Viking fans are superior than everyone else. Genocide anyone who, yeah.
I mean, it kind of is like a absorption for those kind of like, you know, like ethno, whatever you would call it. Like people who would want an ethno state would just kind of be like, what the fuck's a Viking, like an Eagles fan, like fucking Dallas fan. It is like a good place to pour those feelings into. But I also have a problem with spending all day Saturday and all day Sunday watching a bunch of sports teams. I just, from a productivity standpoint, that the idea of spending my weekends doing that terrifies me. But you know, if it's again, if that's what people like to unwind
I don't know
with,
how people do it.
Yeah, I don't know, but again, if that's something people are into and they like, I'm with my buddies, this is fun. I'm like, I wake up from a day of watching football being like, that was awesome. Then like, yeah, you should do that. I'd be racked with fucking guilt and being like, what the fuck do I do? You know, so I've learned to let go of that and be like, hey man, if you feel good after doing that, do you? I don't.
Yeah. What do you think about Peterson sort of propelling himself and making a name for himself based on I don't know if like his politically incorrect opinions around using preferred pronouns and what he would call compelled speech.
Yeah.
I think that's sort of interesting. So like in your guys' case, and again, I don't know the details related to this, and hopefully I don't know the details related to this, but have you seen a big like spike in your metrics and listenership or anything like that?
Well,
since the Old Testament?
No. Well, here's what happened. So it was like, so the Peterson thing, that was like, the thing you're describing was like the lightning bolt that was like the flash of lightning that gave him online life. So it's like without that, a lot of people probably wouldn't have known who he was. I mean, maybe eventually he would, but I doubt it. If he like, you know, literally there was like an arc between two wires and he grabbed onto it. Like that was literally what, like, you know, gave like Frankenstein his digital presence to life. So it's like, yeah, I kind of regret that because I think like his materials are so good when you watch his video, his maps of meaning course, all that stuff. It's so good, but then it just gets kind of derailed by all of the political shit, which, you know, he went on and constantly fed into because there's probably a 1-to-1 thing. If you do that like political stuff, it pays off. You'll get paid. People flock to that. They love that. But when when the shit hit the fan with us, we didn't really like kind of rattle our sabers really. We kind of chilled for a while. There was like a lot of other factors too, but it was just really like a lot of the main thing was like, all right. And again, a lot of the stuff that happened was really, really taken out of context and presented as if like, you know, like Shane was saying things like from his fucking soul and heart. In reality, we were like making fun of the invention of Chinatown, being like, damn, people, like there must have been dudes in the 40s being like, what the fuck, when they're building all these crazy buildings. And then like that's when like we were describing like what people would have said, literally what people would have said back then. It was like we were just sitting there like literally just like farting out of our minds talking. Like it wasn't even like a structured joke. We were just bullshitting. So that was presented as if Shane's real feel. He was caricaturing a guy in the 40s freaking out about Chinatown, and they presented it as if that's how he walks around perceiving the world. So it was bullshit. It was total bullshit. But to answer your question, it was like we kind of chose not to like enter the fray. And honestly, I wanted to. I really, there was a part of me being like, ooh, I could go full fucking like, you know, like freedom speech, and we could have, but no, we shut the Patreon down during that time, and then we did get like a nice little surge after that. But it just kind of died off because I guess there wasn't that. I mean, there was also the possibility our podcast just sucks because it kind of fell off a little bit. But it did fall off, and I think part of that is because we didn't go like full bore into the fray of like, let's go, guys. Let's attack fucking like Glenn. I don't know, whoever whatever reporter we're going to attack. We just didn't do that.
It's interesting, right? Because there is probably an alternate universe where. I don't know. Like, and obviously you'd be exploiting something there, and I don't know. Like, but yeah, people capitalize on stuff like that. Yeah,
for sure.
It's interesting because I certainly hadn't heard of Peterson prior to all of that, and he played into it. I mean, it seems like 2016, like all of the media coverage wasn't about his work as a psychologist, but just the same old fucking story about compelled speech. I thought it was tiring.
Oh, it was brutal. And he would go on, he'd sit down on Fox News, and he could have talked about so much more stuff, but it was just, in the end, he was promoting a book, and he even came out and said, he goes, every time I get protested or I get thrown in the negative light in the news, I make more money. My Patreon just like goes, it just exorbitantly increases every time this happens. And he said consciously, he's like, I consciously, am aware of this, and he's like, it's something I'm aware of, and it's something I personally benefit from. So he always said, he's like, I'm an unabashed capitalist at heart. I'm a classic British liberal, whatever he would say. But it's like, it sucks because his materials were so good. I think he, like, when they wrote a couple of those hit pieces on him, apparently he was always pretty eccentric, kind of a wild dude, but that's why he was pretty good at, his class at Harvard apparently was like super sought out, because it really was, like you were saying, it was filling this weird void where, like, if you go to a college campus, it's like, what is it, like 3/4, if not like honestly like 7/8 of the professors are, pretty far on the liberal side. Then you have this guy who's kind of like right center, who's kind of like, talking about all these other concepts that, at like 24, they're hit, or 22 when you're in college. It's like, this is a kind of a nice message, because there is something to be said for like the quote unquote conservative message. There's good things about it. It's not like one's evil, the other's good, or you're good, this one's like there's it's part of the same thing. But when people get into like, that's like all like the dialectic stuff that like they just don't teach you how to do that in school, how to hold two opposing viewpoints and synthesize them. I can't talk.
Yeah, dude. And the psychology department is even worse in terms of political bias. One of the interesting things that so that was the University of Toronto, and I think it was the Teachers College that was especially involved. But they all do this including on email correspondence, these land acknowledgements. As it relates to the First Nations people here, which I think is. I think it comes from a good place, but from a historical perspective, I wonder if they needed to consult with the history department, because the people that they're acknowledging, like Anishinaabe or Haudenosaunee, like the Mohawk people, like these people claim to those territories, went back and forth after massacres and genocide, and prior to that there was people that were living on the shores of Lake Ontario, the Huron or the Wendat culture, which no longer exists because they were genocided.
Wow.
So it's just exactly. It's just like are we really going to unpack everything, or are we just going to do like a very superficial gesture that's not really helping anyone or acknowledging, I don't know.
That's my problem with it. Exactly.
It feels empty.
Exactly. They would say, "Oh, what? Do you have a problem with it?" It's like, no, I don't. This just seems like bullshit because it's like as if like again like the Paqua or like, wait, what? They acknowledged that that's our land before they did fucking psychology class. Okay, that's cool. No, they're like, all right, mother. If you're acknowledging genocide enough to be like, hey guys, like just before we start class, I'd like to acknowledge this land once belonged to. It's like, then give it the fuck back. Give it back to them. If you really feel that way, again, that's what I hate about it. It's such an empty kind of like, and just to acknowledge that this land was formerly. It's like, all right, well then, fucking let them come here and like, I'd rather probably learn from a Native American tribe right now. If someone is like, hey, we're giving all the land back to the Native Americans, I say this and people can say bullshit, I'd be like, sweet. I'd rather live in a Native American tribe. This will be fucking awesome. But again, people will be, we
got a casino.
Well, we're also so embedded. Yeah. It's an impossibility at this point to be like, even if like, what can you really do? It was a genocide. You can't undo it. It's like, ask them, like, what do you guys want? What do you want to happen? I don't know. I have no idea, but I'm pretty sure on the top of their list isn't like, I just want liberal arts colleges to acknowledge that's where the land came from. And then, even Steven. It's like, get the fuck out of here.
It's disingenuous.
Yeah.
Anyway, at the end of the day, you guys were just pushing boundaries, right?
Yeah. But hey, I got to run. I got
to take, likewise.
Perfect. We'll do that, and like I said, we'll pick back up later, and I'll let you know if I end up starting a cult. And anytime, dude, anything pops up, just let me know. We can always talk about it.
All right, man. I'm ready to drink the Kool-Aid.
Hell yeah, dude.
Talk to you later.
Later, man.